mental health in a state agency. Today I'm joined by Jayne Twiddle, who is an estate agent from York, former National Operations Director for Hunters. Thanks for joining me today, Jayne.
You're welcome.
A topic that is particularly close to your heart is mental health awareness. You were saying before we switched the cameras on that you had this reared its head with regard to your daughter. So give me some background context of what your daughter went through and why it is why you are focused on this topic going forward.
Yeah, well, my youngest daughter is 28 now, and 2 years ago she was diagnosed as autistic. Some of the context around that is saying that she's a high functioning autistic, which that concerns me sometimes, because I think it can take away from the word autistic almost, but anyway, she's high functioning autistic. It's reared its head really because I've seen her journey from school. It was no surprise to us as a family, almost.
So if I'd have gone back in time to when she was a teenager,
yes,
what was different about her compared to, say, her other two sisters?
Well, she'd sleep an awful lot. She was very, very sleepy.
Lazy teenager.
Yes, you could say that, but
no, but that's what's normally branded.
Definitely.
I'm not saying she's lazy.
No, not at all. But it was more than that. She was worn out, absolutely worn out, loads of times. More so than, as you say, a lazy teenager, and that's normal. But she was also. She'd find it difficult to have lots of friends. She didn't have lots of friends. She would have a friend that she'd really focus on, and that friend was everything to her. And they could not live up to her standards sometimes in friendship goals. Lots of things concerned her, worried her, and to the point where, she did suffer from what we thought was depression. And I still think she has had some depression. But that then she was intelligent and all these type of things, but over the years it's taken it, it took its toll really, that on her.
What, so that was hers as a teenager. So how did this rear its head? Because she got diagnosed at 26.
Yep.
I know she just had to, yeah. But how did the spotlight shine on this?
Well, so going back to when she was diagnosed, she was in a company. She started working for a company that's all for mental health, and they really champion all types of people. They're a really modern company, let's just say that. And she had access to private healthcare, and I think they had some counselling, and she was having a little bit of problems with some depression type of things again, and so they offered her counselling, which she's had over the years. But this counselling was online, and I think maybe she was able to open up more. And it was a counsellor that then suggested perhaps that she maybe have some on the scale. And would she like to have that investigated? And she said very much so. In fact, she rang me up in tears that day saying that somebody had suggested that she might be. And I said, gosh, how do you feel about that type of thing? And she said, well, actually, it all fits into place. And she went through what was a really intense, apparently on the NHS, it can take 3 to 5 years to get diagnosed. But she went through a really intense program with these people. Lots and lots of online meetings, forms. I had about 3 hours worth of meetings with the people. And anyway, long and short of it, she's diagnosed. Now, that girl, Kate, has been, she goes out and delivers for Microsoft, big talks, she's been to Berlin, she's been all over doing these talks. Rewind back 3 to 4 years prior to that, she was a mess, and she was working and
almost treading water.
Treading water, just did not know what she wanted to be. The people that she was working with didn't understand her, and just kept really written off actually as
she was
being
almost like a cul-de-sac. Look,
yeah.
And now, because she's had this diagnosis, what's without going too much personal details. Is it treatment or just
No, it's almost being knowing, understanding her traits.
self-awareness?
Self-awareness is absolutely key. Knowing her traits, knowing what triggers the problems, knowing what she's really good at is key. And being able to be in the right environments and being able to control that environment to know what she needs has made all the difference. That said, she did herself the 2 years almost from COVID, let's say, she did herself start going to the gym and doing all these things herself because she'd got a bit of problems with her weight and as I say, her mental health was pretty poor, but she took control. And I think that's some of the resilience that's come from a family environment, but she took control of her mental health in terms of keeping fit, and that steadied her out and made her see she could achieve certain goals. It got her the new job in the right environment for her where she could fly. And then that's led on to this. So it's like all those missing pieces, and now she's had this other piece put in, so she's self-aware and she can actually say to people, she feels validated in being able to say, that's not going to work for me. And I think that's absolutely critical. And for businesses.
And that's where I want to take this conversation is there's going to be estate agents watching this. I mean, there's many one man, one woman band estate agents that probably might even employ 1 or 2 people. But the larger firms out there, what should they be doing with mental health? Because if you think about it, estate and letting agency is quite tough. So, you know, you're either being shouted at by one party or both of them.
Yes. Yeah.
You know, you remember sales progression. God's sake,
yeah,
you're
no
always
win.
wrong.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I think, you know, we used to do one-to-ones, didn't we? You know, going back in the day, doing one-to-ones, and I think, you know, they get less and less important to managers rather than get out there and do the business. However, unless you're having really good one-to-ones where somebody can open up and it's not just a checklist of things.
Not how you doing.
Yeah.
No, how are you really doing?
That's right, Chris. Yeah, that's right. Because you need to get under the skin almost of that person that you're sitting opposite to really understand them so that they can open up. Because actually you might discover an absolute gem if you really take the time to do so. And they might just be sat, as one of my old colleagues used to say, sat on the wrong seat in the bus. You know, they need to be adjusted slightly and maybe get more out of them.
And who knows, by opening those doors, we actually might find a great neg a person who's an average neg might be an amazing branch manager or a sales progressor.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. But you've got to take the time, and I think, you know, time's obviously precious. We know in businesses, isn't it? It's money, effectively.
So really, even, you know, if it's just a one-man, one-woman band with a couple of negs, the biggest takeaway here is go on a proper one-to-one, not a tick box exercise.
Yeah.
I always say go out the office.
Yeah, that's right. Make it an atmosphere where you can feel like you can open up. The other thing, Chris, though, is to be aware is that out there in the world that we're working in, customers, heck of a lot of people will be neurodivergent. You know, Zoopla's just done a survey that was involved in as well about neurodiversity and how to deal with customers. If you don't take time to recognise and understand a little bit about neurodiversity within people generally, you're going to be struggling to make any real connections with some of your customers that you go out to deal with. You know, these customers potentially are not going to want to listen to you rant loads of information at them. They might want you to be very, very explanation, do lots of explanation heavy work with them, or they might not. You need to be able to really understand those customers and try and spot the ones that do have these needs, because that's going to be different to someone else that you're dealing with. But I think I read a stat where there's, 25% of people have got some sort of neurodiversity. And that's a heck of a lot for your customers, So to me, it's not only worth the time of you understanding for your staff, it's also understanding for the customers, to make sure you have the right methods to go out and teach them, and your valuers can flex enough to those people, the customers that are there.
Thank you for your time today, Jayne.
Thank you.